All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for spending a part of your Saturday here with us today. I just want to welcome you to the 8th annual Vermont Tech Jam, brought to you by Dealer.com and My Web Grocer. And a big thanks to our sponsors. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you to Biotech, Champlain College, IBM, Cura Green Mountain, Logic Supply, Merchants Bank, Middlebury Interactive Languages, the Vermont Agency of Education, and the Vermont Technology Council and the Vermont Technology Alliance. On behalf of the Jam organizers, 7 Days, and the Tech Alliance, I'd like to welcome you to the BTV Ignite Showcase, moderated by our mayor. So Mayor, take it away.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you, Julia, and thank you, 7 Days, for bringing us the 8th Tech Jam. This has really become a wonderful annual event, a time that just creates so much energy and gives us all a chance to reflect on what's happened in the tech economy over the last year and look to the future. And it is a tremendously exciting time. I think if you just look around what's just happened in recent weeks, we've had our 4th significant accelerator space open across the street in the Fairpoint building. We have had this incredible attention brought to Burlington because of the success of ELO. It's really just a time where there is a sense that this part of the economy is advancing quickly, and I think everyone on this panel is excited about that and what it means for Burlington's future and the future job opportunities and community development opportunities. And that's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about what the city can do to accelerate that movement, accelerate that enrichment of the tech ecosystem, and leverage the fiber optic resources we have in this community to create jobs, to create community opportunities, educational opportunities. That was the idea behind BTV Ignite when we started it just over a year ago. And each of the people up here have been working over the past year on one element of that or another. You know, government can do lots of different things. What I see, one of the most powerful elements where government can play a role is as convener. It's by bringing together different stakeholders to get conversations going. And that is, I must say, with the BTV Ignite initiative, the interest and energy to engage that conversation has been tremendous from the very beginning of it, from really all different sectors of the city, from the institutions, from the private sector, from the schools and small entrepreneurs, the civic hacking community, department heads within the city, and you're going to hear from really all those perspectives here this morning. I think at this point, I'm going to hand the mic over to Nate Wildfire, who is our Assistant Director for Economic Development within the Community and Economic Development Office. He's the one who, along with a team of others, has brought you the smart parking meters outside just in time for Tech Jam, and has really helped lead a tremendous, interesting initiative around parking that's helping us move forward and deal with that challenge in the city's infrastructure. And he's also been very active, really the leader of this BTV Ignite initiative within the city. So, Nate, maybe you can give us some more of the sort of overview of this effort before we dive into some of the details.
Sure. Just a little history is probably in order. More than a year ago, probably 18 months ago, I met Stephen Bearclough from Burlington Telecom, and he had brought a few folks with him and said, hey, we need to talk about this US Ignite initiative. And I had no idea what that was, but over the course of the last 18 months, I've recognized that US Ignite, which I'm going to tell you what that is in a second, and then BTV Ignite really represent one of the key opportunities for economic development in Burlington for the future. It's one of the number one ways we can actually accelerate growing jobs in our community and growing connections between the tech ecosystem and community. And so Stephen and a gentleman named Gary Evans introduced me to Bill Wallace, and Bill Wallace is the head of US Ignite. And US Ignite is an initiative out of the White House and the National Sciences Foundation to actually bring attention to and then facilitate and leverage high-speed, high-bandwidth fiber networks around the country as test beds, as accelerators, and as tools to grow economy. So some other cool cities that have like US Ignite in them would be like Chattanooga, Tennessee, there's Kansas City, Red Wing, Minnesota, and Burlington, Vermont. And it turns out that because of the infrastructure that Burlington Telecom has made available to us, we've got so much speed and capacity in our fiber to do really, really unique things here, things that take extremely high bandwidth. Think digital security, think video gamification, think digital medicine, these things that take massive, massive amounts of data and speed. And so over the course of a year, we've brought together some really fantastic folks like you see here up on this panel, along with many, many other partners, because quite frankly, we at the Community and Economic Development Office, we don't live in the world of high tech all the time. And so we need help. And so that's where working with folks like Stephen and then everyone you see up here, and in fact, a few other folks down here in the audience, like my Route 802 friends here in the front, they bring a lot of that technical expertise. So as a city, our job is, as the mayor said, to really start to facilitate those relationships, go after resources, whether those are grant resources nationally or local resources here to actually put behind local projects, and then to listen, to really listen about, well, what does the school system need in order to bring tech more into its walls? What do small entrepreneurs need? Do we have the capital system set up? And I think Pat's going to talk about that later today at another panel. But do we have the angel funds? Do we have the investors? Do we have the seed capital necessary to grow the businesses that can actually take advantage of that high-speed network? And then further, how do we actually make Burlington a place where unique things happen? So can we do some sort of civic competitions? Can we put weight behind those things you see in other cities where it says we've put a call out for business plans to create some sort of amazing application that uses the high-speed network? Can we do that here in Burlington and to keep pushing that? And I think Katie's probably going to talk about some of the existing infrastructure to do just that. So that's what CEDO's sort of bringing to the table. We're hoping to continue to convene, to continue to inspire folks to think differently about our tech ecosystem as the major driver of this economy. I think maybe later, I'll shut up now because I'm a chatty fellow, but I think later I'd like to even say some of the things that have happened in 2014 and sort of give some of those big highlights.
Okay, great. I will say, I think we've got a crowd here. We could have a pretty interactive discussion. If people do have questions, just raise your hand. I'll try to recognize you, and we can have some back and forth. But next we will go to Katie Taylor, who is the Government Affairs Specialist at the Lake Champlain Regional Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber has been doing a number of things to promote the tech economy, and I was hoping you could give us sort of an overview on that and any thoughts you have about how we work together with BTV Ignite.
So one of the biggest things that the Chamber is doing is our Launch VT program, which is a business pitch competition. It started 2 years ago, and it brings businesses into Vermont to pitch a business idea. And because, as we all know, tech is sort of the business of the future, a large number of those business ideas are related to tech companies. And it's been really successful in terms of letting people know that Vermont and Burlington specifically are places where tech companies can thrive. This past year, the winning competitor received $75,000 worth of prizes. Some of those were in-kind things like office space, legal services. Some of it was cash that they could use for capital. The competitor that won that was Iris VR. They're developing virtual reality software that that can be used by architects and engineers when they're trying to show people a space in 3D. And it's literally, it's the coolest. They're putting on this headpiece glasses thing, and when you put it on, you can walk through a space, walk through doorways, look up, look down. It's been already really incredible for those businesses that are looking at it, and it started here by 2 graduates of Middlebury College who have already hired employees and are opening up this incredible business here in Vermont, and there's no one else is doing this at all. So it's pretty amazing. And they got incredible mentoring from tech businesses in the area, and the other competitors, so there are 5 semifinalists, all of them received this mentoring, which is really important for tech businesses who are starting out. They need capital always, but they also need connection to other tech businesses in the area. And these types of pitch competitions that are happening across the country are drawing people to the places where those exist. And sometimes they come from outside the state, which is really awesome, and they end up staying because by the time the competition is over, they've created relationships with businesses there that are helping them. They've created opportunities for capital. And I think that LaunchVT is growing, and connecting it up with BTV Ignite and finding ways to focus specifically on tech companies will be an amazing opportunity to really increase the draw for that program. The Chamber is also looking at, this year on the sort of government side of things, repealing the cloud tax, which is a tax on basically if you were going to purchase an online software program that's not tangible, you just purchase it online, there's a tax on that. And a majority of states in the country don't have this tax. And one of the things that the Chamber tries to focus on, and I think BTV Ignite will be really great about, is letting people know that Vermont and Burlington specifically are places where you can come, and we want you to be here, and we want your tech business to succeed. So anything that we can do to let people know that this is a place where we're focused on tech, and eliminating that cloud tax is one of the ways that we're trying to show people this is a tech-friendly atmosphere.
Great, Katie, thank you. Next down the line here, we have Bradley Holt, who wears a number of different hats in the community, and has been working on a number of different elements of this, really been one of our most active volunteers on the BTV Ignite effort, working on a few fronts. So I'm not even quite sure which of the many things you've been working on, Bradley, you want to focus on, but happy to have you here this morning, and thank you for everything you've done for this initiative over the last year.
Thank you, Mayor Weinberger. So I'll talk a little bit about Code for BTV, which is a local Code for America brigade. And I'll maybe talk about a few other initiatives, things that we're doing as part of BTV Ignite. But Code for BTV is, as I mentioned, a Code for America brigade. And has anybody here heard of Code for America before? Show of hands. Okay, wow, a lot of people. That's awesome. So for those of you that haven't heard of it, it's a basically it's a national, really international scope nonprofit based in San Francisco. That their mission basically is to connect technologists and people passionate about their communities with local governments, city governments, and the idea is this concept of civic hacking, which is about people working together to improve their communities through technology. So one of the programs, they have a bunch of different programs, but one program that they have is this brigade program. And the idea is that individuals within their own communities can work on issues and opportunities, use their skills to improve their local communities using technology. So Code for BTV, we've run a bunch of different hackathons, meetups, other events. We founded it about a year and a half ago, so not this June, but the June before. We launched it out of what's called National Day of Civic Hacking. This year we've done 3 major hackathons. The first one was a food systems hackathon. And a hackathon, I should probably explain what these are because I don't assume everybody knows what it is, but the idea with a hackathon is for people to to get together in a short period of time, bring their laptops with them, and either build on something, an application or some other technology to solve some specific problem. So for the Food Systems Hackathon, we actually did this in conjunction with the NOFA VT Winter Conference. And that was really great because we were able to bring in what we call domain experts, people that understand food systems, and have those folks interact with the technologists, with the programmers, software developers, designers, other folks who are involved in the hackathon. So it was a good opportunity to really exchange knowledge and information. So the thing is, as a technologist, my background is a software developer, and as a technologist, it can be really easy to go and just try to solve a problem, but not really first make sure you understand the problem that you're solving. So that was one of the things with that particular hackathon, was to make sure we were really understanding the problems that we were trying to address. The other one we did that was really exciting was Code Across BTV, and we actually partnered with the city of Burlington on this hackathon. Back in February, they launched an open data platform, and the focus of Code Across BTV was to leverage that open data and to see what we could do with that open data. So that's I'm not sure if the mayor wants to talk more about that at some point, but that was a really exciting thing that they're piloting, is this open data platform, and the idea is to provide data, whether it's financial transparency or other data, data about where all the trees are in the city, just some fun data sets, some really serious data sets like financial data, just a whole variety of data sets. Do you want to add something?
Well, just to say, that site, the BTV data site, is still up. There have been some interesting applications that have been built from that information. I think one of the more useful ones, which people may be particularly using starting this March, was around figuring out what ward you were in. Now that we've gone through a redistricting, there was a nice, simple application put together for that by, I think, was Bill Morris. My sense is there's potential to do more here, and it's, I think, a pretty exciting kind of new way people can give back to the community through these civic hacking events. It's remarkable to me how many people are willing to give their weekends essentially to the city to help move an issue forward, and it's certainly something we're excited about and want to see continue. So, but go ahead.
Okay, sure. No, and like I said, it's really exciting to have that open data platform, because I forget who said this, but I heard somebody describe open data as fuel for software developers. So it's kind of some raw material that we can work with to do some really cool things. So it's really great to have that city data to work with. Another hackathon we did was National Day of Civic Hacking this year. That was, I believe, end of May, beginning of June, if I remember right. Or June 1st, that was it, yeah. And we actually did that generator, the new makerspace, actually right over here. So that was really, really cool to actually try to connect with makers and make it not just about software, but about hardware and other sorts of tinkering as well, and connect those two booths together. So I also want to just mention something for folks. If you're not a software developer, you don't think of yourself as a technologist, I want to make sure you know that Code for BTV welcomes you. It's not just about people that already have software development skills or technical skills. We need everybody. So it's a great place to learn new skills, learn something new. We don't have a formal training program per se, but we're very welcoming. You can feel free to try something, experiment, fail, try again. It's great. It's a very welcoming environment. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Girl Develop It, which is a local organization that trains people on various technical skills. One thing with the technology industry is that there's a real shortage of people with technical skills, and that organization has been doing a lot of great work to provide really, really affordable training to, I forget the number, but hundreds of people over the last year. So that's a really, really great initiative that's been happening here in Burlington. Another big thing we've been focusing on is a Civic Cloud. And this is basically it's a rack full of servers sitting in a Burlington Telecom co-location facility connected directly into the gigabit network. So if you've got a gigabit app that you want to develop, you need a place to host that. And you can't just host that in any typical cloud environment, because the fact is that the internet we have here in Burlington, this gigabit network, is kind of faster than the rest of the internet. So you kind of need a local place to host your gigabit app if you're going to build a gigabit app. And that's one of the things that the Civic Cloud is for. So that's been come out of this BTV Ignite. Really exciting thing that's come out of this BTV Ignite initiative is support for that. And we also got a $35,000 Knight Foundation grant as well for that last year, so earlier this year. So that's something that's operational at this point. We're looking at how to open that up to the broader community, but it's up and running, plugged right into gigabit, plugged into internet too as well, which Patrick, I'm sure we'll talk about, which is really exciting. And I'm sure there's more I could talk about, but I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, great, Bradley. If there's no questions for Bradley, we'll go to Rubi Simon, who is our library director and who has been really aggressive about pursuing the opportunities for the library that come with having the gigabit connectivity that the library has through Burlington Telecom. And that has involved some collaborations with other cities. In fact, Ruby, Nate, Katie, and I are all headed down to Chattanooga this week, which is another city that is really grappling with these issues, how to use these fiber optic resources to move the economy and community forward. And but Ruby's done some advanced scouting work on that front and others. So Ruby, thanks for being here this morning.
Sure, thank you. Well, you mentioned one of the projects we're working on, and it was part of, I think, the connection with the BTV Ignite initiative. If it wasn't for that, we definitely wouldn't have had some of these opportunities that we've been able to take a lead on. One of the most exciting ones that we're working on right now is we're collaborating with Kansas City and Chattanooga, and we have been selected as one of the in the second phase of the Knight Foundation selection process. So we're working on a project that's called the Intercity Public Square, which is really exciting. It's basically, connecting our bandwidth connectivities and allowing us to collaborate. And I was talking to my 15-year-old daughter last night, who's a big graphic novel buff, and basically she came up with, and she explained it to me and said, it's a portal to other worlds. And I said, yes, that's exactly what it is. So I think it's an exciting project. It's very cool. It's going to give us the ability, if this moves forward, to really see what other communities are doing and other communities to see what we're doing real time, live, with an awesome connection. Even I think just yesterday we got another email from Santa Monica Public Library who wants to be part of this and understand what are some of the projects we're doing. So this is what's most exciting to me, and what are the opportunities that are there for us to bring to our community and for others to know what we are doing as a city, as a public library, our schools, our community. And it's exciting that we're going to be able to really put ourselves on the map and show some of the exciting things that we're coming up with.
Great. And our final panelist is Pat Clemins, who is with EPSCoR and has, I think, a unique perspective from that perch into what's happening in Burlington Tech. And Pat, why don't you take it away?
So you probably want to know what a Vermont EPSCoR is first, so I'll kind of start with that and get into the view that I'm coming from and how that relates to BTV Ignite. So EPSCoR stands for Experimental Program to Stimulate Competitive Research, but most people don't even know for the acronym, including our funding agency, which is the National Science Foundation. But this basic role is Vermont is the only EPSCoR program. There's 32 different jurisdictions of EPSCoR across the country. They all seek to build research capacity and infrastructure in those jurisdictions. So think states that may not get quite the fair share of research dollars, they get an EPSCoR program to build competitive advantage in research and become more competitive. So we do that in a number of different ways in Vermont. And our biggest arm is a research grant at a number of universities and colleges in the state that study water quality on Lake Champlain and how that water quality might be affected in future climate change, and how we might be able to adapt governance and management of that lake to adapt to those changes. So that's kind of our biggest portion, but we also do a lot of other things as well to increase research capacity. We build with human resources, so we recruit faculty from other states, provide setup funds to get them situated in Vermont at UVM, and we also do a lot of workforce development, so reaching out to K-12s and try to train the next generation of scientists and researchers. Private sector outreach, we give some seed grants that we're going to talk about later today at 1 o'clock if you're interested in that. And then finally, the BTV Ignite piece, we build cyber infrastructure. So to kind of give you a background of our cyber infrastructure, about 5 years ago we set out to connect about 5 different states in our region. Northeast is kind of known as like the black hole of fiber infrastructure in the US, didn't really connect a whole lot. So 5 years ago we set to change that. And we worked with Maine, Rhode Island, Delaware, and Rhode Island to connect the universities and higher ed in those states. Once we got that situated, we looked internally to Vermont and said, well, now that we have this great fiber infrastructure in the region, how can we leverage that to help institutions in Vermont gain access to that? And so we set out to create a statewide research and education network connecting community anchors, and we formed Vermont UCAN, Unified Community Anchor Network. And we can now connect 125 sites throughout the state and are gearing up to connect more. As we've gone about building this cyber infrastructure over the last couple of years, we've kind of got some lessons that we've learned, and we've realized that there's kind of 3 main pieces of this puzzle. And I'm going to call that connect, integrate, and empowerment. And so the connect piece is all the physical infrastructure, the fiber that goes in the ground, the electronics that drive the fiber, the physical servers that provide access. And so there's this connect physical piece that a lot of people really think of the meat as cyber infrastructure. But these other 2 components are critical to make that cyber infrastructure effective and to make it sustainable through the end of these projects. And so the integrate piece is providing services and applications, reasons for people to use that infrastructure. So think like file transfers, video conferencing type systems, things like that, things that actually leverage that infrastructure. And the final piece is empowering a community of users that can learn from each other and share ideas so that once the initial grant money dries up, there's a community there that can use that infrastructure and push it forward. So BTV Ignite has been a made player and a real kind of shot in the arm in all 3 of these areas. In terms of connection, it's formed a partnership between us and Burlington Telecom to provide fiber access to a number of new institutions within the region. The Civic Cloud has been a big piece of infrastructure, and we've applied for some more of that, including a Genie Rack, which would provide some computational power in the region, and actually allows us to connect to other Genie Racks across the country and create a big distributed high-performance computing system so that if, say, someone in BTV is using our system heavily and someone in Chattanooga is not, they can kind of shift some of that load to Chattanooga. So it's a very powerful kind of distributed computing system that will be available. On BTV Ignite, that's kind of meat is these gigabit applications that it's creating around economy, education, and community, and so that's kind of that integrate piece, providing applications and services to use over the fiber infrastructure. And then finally, in terms of empowerment, there's 25 other Ignite cities across the country, and this really gets to grow our community, and we've already seen how Rubi has leveraged some of these connections to do great things with libraries and some of these other Ignite cities. And we'll continue to create those partners across the country. So BTV Ignite has really been a major piece in helping to kind of push our agenda forward in terms of cyber infrastructure in the state.
So Pat, tell me I'm thinking you might have sort of an interesting perspective given that your work, as I'm understanding it, has really been about building up this backbone and this connections between educational institutions in different regions, different states. It has, I think, excited a lot of people the possibility that that there might be some real competitive advantage in Burlington for businesses that set up here because of the connectivity within Burlington. Not so much, that kind of connection to the rest of the world. You need that, and that is not unique to Burlington, but that you do have, potentially 20,000 different addresses within the city, all of which could theoretically at least be running at just, have massive data flowing through them, that might present some unique opportunities for for applications. Do you have a sense of how that's playing out? Do you see that as a major opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one thing to think about in answering that question is how do you get new technology? How does technology kind of grow and develop? And I think an important component of that is technology kind of builds off of itself, right? You don't kind of just all of a sudden get an iPhone in your hand. I mean, there's a number of technologies and systems that go into that iPhone. And so if you kind of think about your technology and kind of think of a pyramid building upwards with the next layer is all the systems that go into the iPhone and then all the systems that go into those systems. And you kind of get this inverse pyramid of technologies that are very basic at the top and then the technology at the bottom that you actually hold in your hand. And each kind of player in this ecosystem plays a different role as you move down that pyramid. So at the top you have very basic research like how electrons move through the iPhone. And that kind of research and things are done at the university level and academic institutions. And then as you kind of move to the middle of the pyramid, you get more applied research. So how can we make those electrons move in ways that make sense and solve problems? And this applied research is kind of the realm of universities and industry working together. But at the bottom, you have those commercializable ideas, that real technology that you can hold in your hand, and that's kind of the realm of industry. And so you kind of need all of these components to work together to end up with that product in your hand. And so technology isn't something that happens in someone's garage on their own, although that's what we hear about and we see. They're building on technologies that have existed and pulling from things that take decades to develop. And so these networks provide that interaction and that community to kind of make these ideas mix in this big like melting pot of goo. And then, what happens is, normally just technology kind of comes out of that goo, occasionally, and we have a nice new, either a social media app like Ello, or a cool Oculus Rift technology for architects. So it's kind of the network's all this interaction between these different pieces to have something fall out of that.
Yeah, that's nicely said. Thanks. I was thinking Rubi and Bradley, maybe I think really probably the department within the city that's engaged most with Code for America, Code for BTV has been the library. Can you speak to some of the value the library has gotten out of that collaboration, Ruby, and if you have thoughts about where it could go from here?
Yeah, I think, when this first started and I had just been hired as well, Bradley and I connected and we met, and I think one of the first projects we did was Hack the Stacks. And I think from that experience and seeing all the opportunities, it really brought in our thoughts and ideas of what we could potentially do with this. The Hack the Stacks was really an eye-opener, at least for us and my staff as well. And we were able to look at potential projects and apps, and then also how do we engage the community in that? How do we bring that, bring them into that piece? And it was a whole other population that we had not traditionally been working with in Burlington. We'd been mostly doing, the youth and seniors, and this was a whole other population group that we were really excited about being able to have something to offer to them. So I think Bradley could probably elaborate a little more on the techie side of the projects that were done, but in terms of us and the programming that we do, it aligned very much with our mission and our role into engaging people and facilitating the exchange of knowledge and ideas. But it was a great project.
And I just want to add to that Ruby and the entire staff at Fletcher Free Library has been enthusiastically embracing the work that we've been doing at Code for BTV. So that's been really, really exciting. And I'd also say that extends to the city of Burlington in general. I mean, up here, Nate is up. Nate has been amazing to work with as well. The leadership from the mayor's office has been amazing. So we've worked with folks from Parks and Recreation, from other folks from CEDO, Burlington Electric Department. I'm sure I'm missing other people here. I don't mean to slight you if I am, but I just want to say the entire city of Burlington's been really great to work with for the work we've been doing with Code for BTV and really embrace this civic hacking movement. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that.
Great. Go ahead.
So the civic hacking thing has been great within the community, but as far as I've been aware, there hasn't been that much integration between civic hacking necessarily, BTV Ignite, and UVM. And I'm wondering if there's any plan or if there's anything that I don't know about where you using BTV Ignite to draw students to UVM because, gee, you can't go to a university everywhere that's connected to a gigabit city. And also, I think the UVM computer science students are going to be quite likely to have some great ideas that can really use the bandwidth. Because, I don't know, they're the next generation, so they're probably thinking way ahead of where we're at within the community already, because we're older.
Great. I think we are trying to promote that kind of collaboration with both UVM and Champlain College. And it does, kind of like Pat's answer about, how does innovation and technology evolve? I mean, there's sort of different elements of it, and it has been sort of mixing around. But where I've intersected it, we had an event a couple months ago, just on the other side of the wall here in the generator space, where we invited the professors at both the colleges who really have kind of a tech syllabus of some sort to come and see generator and consider and to meet Bradley and Jason and to consider whether you could work into essentially the prospectus, the syllabus for classes, some kind of projects that would involve more civic hacking type projects and leveraging the opportunity that Generator has, and I think that's started to get some traction. I think there have been more classes happening in Generator in recent months. The UVM and Champlain have both very much been at the table in all the conversations around BTV Ignite, and I think are excited about the potential. Do you want to speak more, Bradley, to how you see the kind of UVM partnership in particular evolving?
Sure, I'll jump in just about that panel discussion that you were referring to. It was a really great discussion that we had with folks in computer science education. There were some students there, and we had a great conversation about some of the challenges and opportunities for how we can engage students, specifically in civic hacking, but I think that can also spread out into these other, the broader BTV Ignite initiative. And so as civic hackers, you can probably imagine we're kind of this loose group of people that show up in a room and hack on stuff for a weekend or for a couple days, or meet up occasionally, and we're fairly unstructured, and a university environment is a very structured environment. So we've had some great conversations about how we can make those two meld together. So we've got some ideas there about how to do that. But yeah, definitely an exciting opportunity. We'd love to have more students involved.
You want to weigh in on this, Nate?
Yeah, so I was really lucky to go to a conference in San Francisco a couple months ago. It was put on by a group called the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. And I thought I was going to a conference that was mostly going to be about like green infrastructure people and people that plant trees and create these really energy efficient housing units. That's what it wasn't really about that at all. What the conference ended up being was all those sustainability folks, and then all of these like chief information officers, basically from all these different cities, and sticking them in a room for 3 days and saying, how can we meet these environmental and economic development goals with digital resources and actually leveraging the talent, the tech talent that everybody has in their cities. So I was floored, I was blown away, because San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Boston already have these programs in place where it's a little bit akin to what Katie was describing before. They put a call out like to the world and they say, here's our 30 unsolvable civic problems. We either just don't have capacity, or we just don't have time, or we don't have tech talent in-house within a city or a library or an economic development office to do it. And so rather than, like Bradley says, rather than go through an extremely structured process to write an RFP and go through all this red tape and hire somebody, they just put a blast out to the world and they make it a competition. They make it a hackathon, essentially. And folks show up, and over the course of some days, sometimes it's 3 days, sometimes it's 2 months, they create the solution to that problem. And they're as mundane as, we have this giant piece of equipment at Public Works, and every time it goes down, it takes 6 days to fix, and the city hates us. How do we change that to half a day? You know, or how do we optimize how we're spending resources on power lines, or whatever? You can make you probably all have 100 city challenges you wish were solved yesterday, and so that's how they did it. And then the neat part about it was that every city has the same problem, basically. So as soon as one group figures out how to create that solution, they commercialize it. They take it to the next cities and they sell it. And so there's all these little businesses being created out of these hackathons, essentially. And it's this really interesting meld. And so the UVM connection comes in because they're finding that about half of the participants are actually like graduate level students or final senior projects that just happen to line up with the timing. And so there's all this flood of talent that's saying, oh my gosh, you mean I don't have to do a practicum or a thesis? I can actually solve Mayor Weinberger's, you know, I don't know what problem, some problem, you know, and it really makes a huge difference, I think, in the energy level that comes to these solutions. So we're hoping that through the auspices of BTV Ignite and building off the success of folks like Bradley's and others, that we actually start to do that here. We think it's totally possible and will bring so much more energy and diversity of thought and talent to civic challenges.
2 more quick points on this question of UVM students in particular that I think are giving me some optimism that as we're getting momentum going here, that this is going to become a powerful force. One is UVM is committed to making one of its largest capital investments ever in this new STEM facility, and I think that is going to bring a new kind of type of student to UVM and who are going to want to engage these conversations and opportunities. And then secondly, we have an ambition. I think there's a broad sense that Burlington could do more in general to proactively market itself. And maybe Katie, you'd like to speak to this. I mean, I think you don't want to be careful about resources you spend in this way. And in a lot of ways, Burlington, the best marketing is just how many great things are happening in Burlington. What a great place this is to live. What the great stuff that people are doing here. But I do think if there are areas where we are in some way going to spend sort of proactive marketing dollars, the message that there's something unique, a unique opportunity about being a student in Burlington. It really is, we think, kind of the only place that every student K through college and beyond has access to a gigabit of connectivity right now. Champlain College students have that all in their dorm rooms. UVM, sometimes they got to leave their dorm and walk down the hall or something. But there is this is an area where the massive fiber optic resources in the community could make a difference. Did anyone else have a question, or we'll go back to you for another one?
The other question that comes from what Dave was saying is. And when I went to a broadband conference in Florida and was talking with some people that are doing stuff in Chattanooga and Kansas City, and one of the people there was a young student who somehow ended up getting funding from Mozilla Foundation, and I'm just wondering if there's been any work within BTV Ignite to try and engage some of these larger organizations like Mozilla or, I don't know, Google or something to try and get some more funding just for students to go from student to this is my job now. It's really cool,
Does say one thing real quick about that. So Mozilla has they used to call it the I forget, they just changed the name of it. I think it's the Gigabit Community Fund now. I believe it's the new name. They are on the ground in both Kansas City and Chattanooga, and I was talking to the director of the program. He's not the director anymore, but I was trying to lobby him to also bring it here to Burlington. So we'll see. Maybe if we keep up the noise and make sure they know what we're doing, and we're doing awesome stuff here, maybe we'll become a Gigabit Mozilla Gigabit Fund community as well. So.
Yeah, and just very briefly, US Ignite is often that portal to these larger funding sources nationally. So, Samsung invests nationally, Google invest nationally, Mozilla. And so we're having those conversations right now just to, it's not like they write blank checks. You gotta match it up to the right research capability or the right opportunity. So we're having those conversations, and I can say that the head of US Ignite has just been incredible at leveraging those connections. We wouldn't have them without BTV Ignite, quite frankly.
I want to go back to this idea of marketing that was sort of identified as one of the 6 kind of major areas where there could be, a BTV Ignite initiative could add some value. Katie, you want to speak to your perspective on that?
So one of the things that we're always working on at the Chamber is making sure that people know that Burlington is a great place to start a business, have a business, come to start your career, to finish your career, whatever. This is a place where you can succeed. And I think that as a state, we've been really good at making sure that people know this is a great place to come ski and see beautiful farms and get apple cider and cider donuts, and all of those are really amazing, and we want people to continue to know that those are things you can do, but we want them also to recognize that you can get a cider donut on the way home from your incredible cutting-edge tech job. And always trying to figure out where funding can come from for marketing initiatives is challenging. We're working on that at the Chamber through our legislative work to try to find ways to have the funding to market Vermont sort of combined as a great tourist location and also as a great tech center. But when we can create these national partnerships with something like US Ignite, it's kind of like free marketing. We're getting the word out through someone else that this is a great place to be, and every time there's a story about BTV Ignite, every time that we can put on from the student perspective, we can put on UVM or Champlain's websites. When you come to Burlington, we have BTV Ignite. We're connected into these national networks. That's great for the student population. And then, when we get named by, as the most promising one of the most promising tech hubs to watch in 2014, those things help market us without Burlington or the state having to find, specific funds to do that, and that's really important. And the second thing I wanted to say about BTV Ignite, and I think it will lead to more opportunities for, as Ruby said, for us to be on the map for the tech world, is the connection. And I think this goes to your question, and I think to some of the things that Pat was saying about connecting up. These advances don't happen in a vacuum. So we're hearing about things that this organization is doing and that organization is doing, and they're all amazing. And I know that with BTV Ignite, Nate and the mayor are working to have a position for a coordinator of BTV Ignite. And I think that will be, we're really excited about that, and I think everyone who's interested in the success of the tech industry here should also be really excited about that, because that's a way to pull together all these diverse groups and have one person whose job is to make sure that they all know what each other are doing, and that the world at large, the country, other parts of the state know what's happening here. And that will help all of the businesses, but it will also help anybody who's wanting to come here, and ultimately will help put us on the map more and more as a place where we have this unique thing to offer, where you can be in this beautiful place and you can also be on the cutting edge of tech advances.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make one comment, Katie, in sort of support of what you were saying. And one of the things that I noticed, and then in reading a recent little snippet out of 7 Days article about what is going on with BTV Ignite, and going to the website and not seeing a lot of this information there. I think that one thing that's missing is sort of a better conduit out to everybody about all this. This is amazing stuff, but I don't think it's getting the kind of exposure that it needs to really start generating the excitement about it all. And I think a communication piece is lacking between this panel and all these amazing things and what the world has sort of expected of BTV Ignite. And if you look at the site today, and maybe I'm wrong because maybe I didn't go to the right place, or
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think we are under-resourced in this area, and we're looking to change that. We're looking to fix it, as Katie said, and we've had a couple community partners step up to say that they can help with that effort, and I think that's what's been missing, and I think you're going to see a change in that direction soon. And we'll see where that goes. There are other communities where it isn't the city that's serving that function, and maybe that's right long term. I do think right now we just got to get the conversation. We got it going at a faster rate than it is, and I think the city can play a positive role in getting that happen. I think that's really what's next with BTV Ignite. I mean, it is. I think it's been a great year for the tech economy in Burlington, and I'm hopeful that we'll be back here next year and feel like it's just been an even one with even more momentum next year. I think we're almost out of time.
Can I just add one quick
Yeah, I think we could you've got like a minute each if you each want to share one final thought.
I just wanted to really quick response to that. You're absolutely right. I just wanted to say on the flip side of that, though, is that this initiative has been very heavy on substance. So I think that's probably why you haven't heard a lot, is because everybody's been involved in doing lots of great things. And I think that it really speaks to this initiative not just being it's not just something that, hey, we're doing this cool stuff, it's this cool. We're actually working on making really transformative and really great stuff happen. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Anyone else want to share some final thoughts?
I just want to say
Go ahead,
one quick thing. We talk a lot about all the things that we're doing, but I want to also put a shout out for BT. When I started here, one of the first things I did when I went out was I was evaluating my services, and one of the things that we were having some issues with was the Wi-Fi. And I made a call, and BT came in and said, you know what, we're going to give you the 1 gig. And this was within the first month I had started. And after that, all of this happened. So I wanted to put that out there, that was a major part of being able to do a lot of the things we're doing and just connecting us. It's a question. I think,
Okay,
There's
great.
a
Go ahead.
question.
Can't quite hear you. If you could.
I said I use the library Wi-Fi, and it's sometimes still flaky.
We'll get on that then.
I think that's the router, not the...
Okay.
So just a final thought here. I think most of you should have in your hands, and if you don't, make sure you grab one on your way out. It's an executive summary of sort of our playbook, our plan moving forward. And Al, I'm glad you brought that up, because as of yesterday, this is live on the website, and you can comment on it right there. So we'd encourage you all to do that. I got to give a special shout out to Bradley, Stephen from Burlington Telecom in the back of the room, and Bill Wallace from US Ignite for really pushing this document to make sure it's including all the great things that have happened this year. I kind of look at that triumvirate as sort of our spiritual leaders in BTV Ignite. And, it's really been pretty cool. I think Al's hitting the nail on the head. We need to talk about what's happening and what's been going on, because it's quite frankly amazing stuff. And as we accelerate it, as we put more capacity behind it, there's only going to be more and more and more good meat, I think, as Pat said, more good substance. So it's one of our challenges. How do we market it? Luckily, we have a BTV Ignite marketing committee that's reinvigorating. So we're excited about how that'll move.
Great. Well, I think that's a good note to end on, and a good call to end on. Anyone who's been interested by this conversation that's here with us today, or I think we are fortunate that Channel 17 is going to put this up online. And I know that you can engage in this conversation in the future of it as we are finalizing this roadmap, this playbook in the months ahead. This is sort of a a good draft that's now out and on the website, and the hope is to pull it together in the months just ahead, and then start, have this committee work going on to implement it. So there's lots of opportunities to be involved if this is an interesting conversation with you. And thank you for being part of the conversation today, and I look forward to doing this again next year with even more good stuff to report. Thank you all.